where you're going. And with that, let me hand it over to Manish.
Well, thank you, Eric, for that background. And one thing is we'd like to make this a bit more interactive. So I'll just have Roshan explain to you how you can ask questions, and then we'll proceed.
Yeah, so you should have a small little panel on the right side of your screen that shows you a question dialog box. You can ask questions using that dialog box, and I will intervene and ask the speakers the question once you post the question in that panel there. Thank you, Manish.
Okay, great. So let's move to the next slide, please. So given the background that we just heard from Eric, it's clear that companies are spending a lot on their warranty expenses. And in some cases, there's a challenge because that's becoming an increasing part of their revenues. So what I'd like to do is go through the business challenges that we see companies facing in some more detail, and then dive into a case study a bit later on and talk about the potential impact some best practices and automation can have on these issues. A lot of the challenges should look familiar to you, so I'll probably go through a bit quickly here. In the case of the overall warranty operations, what we've called the warranty center, clearly reducing claims expense and the staff cost is a big component. And additional challenges are that lots of companies have multiple business units where they'd like to share and achieve economies of scale in a warranty solution, yet also be able to configure things uniquely as required for the different business units. Fraud and duplication, integration with systems, addressing changing needs, these are all clearly important. And also, as we'll see, there are multiple parties involved, from dealers to your own staff to your management and the suppliers. And it's challenging to get all the parties coordinated when you're dealing with claims that, for example, even involve supplier recovery. And last but not least, it's very important to not just focus on paying out claims efficiently, but also to look at how you can improve your product quality. So we'll also talk about some of the challenges, in using the data you have to be able to address that. You'd like to be able to detect trends early, for example, before your customers see too many failures. Next slide. So with policy management, it's important, I think, people see problems with being able to express their complex policies and entitlement rules with the solutions they have. You might have, for example, a policy that covers an entire piece of equipment, and then a special policy that covers the powertrain or the refrigeration system or whatever, and that has a larger duration. And you'd like to make sure that you can address those distinctions without requiring lots of manual effort. Likewise, when you do discover problems and you need to have a service campaign or a recall, companies are finding it challenging. They have to manage this stuff manually. They might not even have the information about all of the new owners of the equipment to do a recall effectively. With regard to claim submission, we've seen many systems are still in the ages of the green screen, or and not using the modern web-based interfaces to make claim submission easier, and so there's a lot of errors that are generated just at the entry point, and this can lead to longer cycle times as things go back and forth. And with regard to part returns, it's important to be able to know exactly when parts need to be sent back as part of a claims process, not to require them all the time, and at the same time not to miss those cases where you need them. So again, this has been challenging for companies to identify. And what goes hand in hand with that is also ensuring that when your business policies require parts to be returned before paying a claim, you need a better way to track that. Next slide. I'll go in chronological order, which in this case means bottom up. So with claim processing, clearly, we're seeing lots of cases of companies still doing a lot of things manually, or even if there's a system, there's a lot of manual judgment involved, and that leads to inconsistency in adjudication. Also, companies are often not able to see all of the history of a claim and other details to be able to make effective judgments, and sometimes end up paying invalid claims as a result. Supplier recovery, just as you have challenges in maintaining the details of your warranty contracts and terms inside of a system, people have difficulty maintaining that information with regard to their supplier contracts. And this is making it difficult to trace claims end to end. Suppliers often want information in detail about the end user claim before paying up on a part that you send back to the supplier. And as we move to the last point here about product failure and cost analysis, the real goal here is not just to make the operations of your warranty center efficient, but in fact to use the data you have and run your business more smartly. Measure the cost that you actually have of the warranty. Do that by product line or by place where it's deployed. Look at the performance of your suppliers and your dealers. Detect trends early so that maybe you can influence manufacturing or design if you see a pattern emerging, or maybe you can have a service campaign before you get too many failure reports from the field. So these things have been, again, challenging in the solutions that have less automation. And financially, of course, the better that you can predict your current costs, the more accurately you can forecast the reserves that you should hold on to. So next slide. What would you look for in a solution that tries to address these challenges? And so we'll talk about that in these 4 categories. It's kind of implied by the challenges we've seen, but intelligent warranty entitlement, so you can have multiple policies that apply to different situations. Friendly claim submission, where everything is validated as you enter, even the serial numbers on parts and or on the equipment. Integration between all the partners. Support for service manuals and training manuals and demos and so on brought online, so that you don't have to be dealing with these things through the postal service or conducting a lot of extra help sessions yourself. And in some cases, if it's important to you and your business to have mobile or handheld access, that might be something to look for as well. With regard to the configurability of the platform, we've pretty much universally heard from clients that they want to make sure that they can administer the system without requiring software changes or IT help or vendor help all the time. And that means that the policies and their detailed rules should be things that can be configured and adjusted. And likewise, if the system supports automated decisioning, you would want your staff to be able to administer those rules on its own. And that goes for the workflow as well. Given that you have multiple parties involved, you don't want to have people waiting on each other. You would want, whenever a claim gets sent back to a dealer for more information, well, the dealer should get notified directly by email without your warranty processors having to call them, for instance. We can move on to the next one.